The fundamental mechanism of Paths of Glory is the conversion of action rounds into moving the victory point track in your alliance's favor. While it may appear that operations against your opponent is the most efficient use of action rounds, by the time that you enter limited war, you are likely to find your gains tend to evaporate and fade like a grand parade. Because most of us started this hobby with World War II simulations that included an economic phase to recoup our losses, there is a built-in immunity to consultations regarding deliberate conduct of operations. Even with both quantitative and qualitative advantages over your opponent, an operations heavy playstyle causes a burn rate that will put you on the road to ruin. Consequently, every operations point spent on combat, not entrenching, should be matched with an operations point spent on replacements. Keeping this equality in mind will not only keep your eliminated replaceable box comparatively empty, it also encourages the construction of trenches, which makes your opponent's operations against you less efficient. While each army step costs one replacement point to recover, as with most things in life, some armies are more equal than others. Those nation states that were further along in developing their fossil fuel infrastructure, Belgium, England, France, Germany, and the United States, have armies with a loss factor of 3. All other armies have a loss factor of 2. These nation states that still depended upon horsepower faced a Faustian bargain as every horse used for the war effort decreased the food supply for that nation state. Each of these nation states, except Serbia, succumbed to a new beginning within a few years of the war's closing. The difference in loss factors goes deeper than an individual army's ability to absorb damage without loss. It also influences the probability that a corps from the reserve box will replace the eliminated army. Because all corps except for the solitary full-strength BEF corps, the lion-hearted old contemptibles, which is non-replaceable anyway, has a loss factor of 1. Their presence on the front tends to be quite transitory. By themselves, corps are quite vulnerable. However, they facilitate multinational operations and are less costly to strategically redeploy. Because proper corps inventory management is crucial to optimizing your replacement strategy, I will also discuss strategic redeployment, or SR, in this video installment. The replacement value for each nation state for a given ops value card varies. Germany and Great Britain have the most replacements and hence staying power, while Russia may have more replacements. Their 2 loss factor armies more than offset the small numerical advantage. For both factions, play of a 3 ops card is minimally sufficient, suitable for only quiet turns or if you're stuck with a handful of drought. Austria receives only 1 replacement point and Italy none. The Allied powers have to play a 4 ops card to receive 1 Italian replacement. The SR and replacement strategy for the Allied powers echoes the historic reality. There is stalemate in the West, with entrenching and conducting offensives when mandated by the civilian overlords. But in the East, the Russians should hit the Austrians whenever possible, forcing the Central Powers to play replacement actions even when the German army is at full strength. The Allied powers should conduct at least 1 SR action per turn. Mostly this will involve the movement of corps back to the reserve box. Even a corps stacked with an army is an invitation to attack and likely transfer the corps to the eliminated replaceable box. In addition, from turn 1, the Russians should SR 1 corps to the Near East. In limited war, they receive the army of the Caucasus, but without extra corps, it can be easily cut off in Cappadocia. In the West, SR is more straightforward. A British army should SR to Italy to allow the Italians a chance to rebuild their army and to give entrenching support. 2 French corps should be SR to Salonika at that event, leaving room for Serbian rebuilds and the Army of the Orient in total war. While the Central Powers have fewer armies, they do have the advantage of interior lines. In the West, Germany should entrench to level 2 and concentrate attacks on the nation-state with the fewest corps in reserve. Both the Zoot Army and the 11th Army events should be played at the first opportunity. Because of these combined armies cost 1 operations point to activate, but more importantly, allow a division of losses between Germany and Austria that will thwart Allied efforts to deplete the Austrian armed forces. The Zoot Army benefit can apply to a different Austro-German stack each round. Because of this, corps formed from the combat losses should be SR'd to Austrian armies as a matter of routine. The 11th Army is also valuable for entrenching support and coordination, not only with the Austrians but also the Bulgarians. As noted with the Allied player, other than for the Zoot Army and the 11th Army, corps should be SR'd back to the reserve box. Also, once Bulgaria enters the war, one corps per SR action should be sent to the Near East to bolster the Turkish war effort by providing more lemmings that Russia has to face. As the Western Front gets entrenched, both sides need to look elsewhere for victory points. Next episode will be the first of 2 parts of the Limited War segment, featuring Winston Churchill's first obsession with the soft underbelly of Europe.